There they are.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Excellent. Welcome back. Happily, we were able to gremlins in our technology, and we're back in business. I'm turning to open the meeting.
Great. Thank you, Porter. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, everybody. My name is Daniel B. Smith. I'm the chair of the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission, and I will start this meeting, as I start every meeting, with a roll call. That's still important, right? First up will be Marlo.
Here, present.
Thank you, Marlo. And then Tim. I do not believe Tim will be joining us. And then Dina. And then Rebecca.
Here.
And then Jill.
Present.
And then Mary.
Present.
And then Marciana.
Present.
And that's everybody, right? I don't have the list in front of me.
So just Tim and Dina are absent tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dina said she'd be coming late.
That's right.
Oh, right.
Coming late.
I need her from 10.
Great. Thank you. So there's no public comment. There's no new business. There's just one old business on the agenda for tonight, and it is reviewing the 2023 Community Arts Grant applications. I believe everybody submitted their scoring rubric,
Yes.
and almost everybody submitted it in the right format. I'm the person who did not. I'm sorry.
It is A-okay. I'm just making this a little smaller. I know it's hard to see, but we can actually get everything in view here. Let me share my screen so that all of you can see. All right. And I can switch between different screens here, Porter, too, so we can have all of what we need in front of us.
Right. And if you can get the video up here, and then you can stretch this out, so make sure everybody can see.
There's no way I can see that. Oh, no, I can't either. Can you make it bigger,
Yeah.
please?
I certainly can.
Really big.
Wish I could get this kind of real quick, but. Okay. So this is the matrix. We input all the data from all of the different scoring matrix that you guys presented to us. We took your total from this total category, and this is an awesome Excel spreadsheet that I was able to plug everything into to be able to see who is scoring highest among board members, who's scoring lower, and kind of see trends. And this was going to aid our conversation tonight.
Scroll down because we want to show. So this is the matrix we use for our TGT grants as well. And we actually had a very interesting intern who had been with the military and was a whiz with Excel. And so when I talked to him, I said, we're struggling because we want people to not just score grants and then run through the scoring, but to encourage dialogue. And he said, I can help you. And he did. He set this whole thing up. All these formulas are in there. So what it does is it shows if you have a -1 standard deviation, that shows up in red. And if you have a +1 standard deviation, it shows up in blue. The idea of which ultimately is you see a bunch of numbers with some color. The color is indicating to you, for whatever reason this skewed higher, for whatever reason this skewed lower. This is not a grading in any way, shape, or form. This is purely just looking at your scores and putting a visual context to encourage dialogue. So if you see something on here that's like, that shouldn't have scored that low, I really think we should look at that again, we can do that. So this is not definitive, this is that starting point. It's just really important for people to understand that. So this is really just to start the conversation. That said, too, obviously you all have scored according to your professional, viewpoints. So there's obvious validity in that. Wow, my tongue just got really tied. And then I know Abby's done a great job of creating other templates so you can see different variations of this that might help you in this deliberation. And I use my hands a lot when I talk.
That's all right. If you hit me, I'll hit you back.
Fair enough.
Yes. We also have a graph here which we can look at later on that just, I've calculated out percentages of the funding request just so that we can easily see what the potential is based on every ask. What a 50%, 75, 50, 20, 100%, and then down of that grant. And then also based on the total scoring, this is the lineup of which was scored the highest down through.
And remind me, you may not have exact numbers, but we have 70,000, no, is it 70?
70, yeah.
$70,000, but the total ask was 100 and,
202.
so we have 3 times the
Yes.
amount asked for than we actually have to give. So,
Absolutely.
just so everybody understands that too.
And if it would be helpful to start off discussion by going through each of the applications and looking through them that way.
I think we can reference them as needed, but I don't know that we want to go through them all. But we can certainly, if anybody has questions and just can't remember something, we can certainly go back. And all the applications are available online. So I would suggest maybe go back to your list of highest to lowest, because that allows them to see different breaks in the scoring.
DLB Smith, yeah, I think that this is definitely a good starting point. I'm curious to know if we have any idea, assuming that each project is fully funded, how far down this list we would get. I don't think that that's not how we should actually divvy up the funding, but I think it would be helpful to put into context how we need to start.
Yeah, it's a good thought. Can you go back to the other page, the percentages? And so, trying to think of the easiest way to do this. I would say, so we have 18 applicants, right?
Mhm.
So try this. This is my suggestion.
Yeah.
One of the suggestions. Make this small enough so I can see the whole. One more. All right, so what I would suggest is go ahead and click on that and hit sum.
Okay.
And then I would go from here to 9, just to see what that adds up to. And hit enter. So that's over. So that tells us that, and it's kind of random because these are different amounts in here, but it gives you an idea that you could conceivably, depending on the amount requested and the amount given, get, if you did full funding, it looks like around half.
DLB Smith, and that does include the one request which was over the maximum, correct?
In this case, yes, it did.
I know.
Yeah, because these are not in that order, so, right.
I know that's something we talked about previously, and we weren't sure exactly how to handle that, whether that qualified as turning in an application that was invalid, or whether we should respect the brashness.
So, yeah, so everybody understands, and not to, obviously these grants, if you're not familiar with them, everybody has different challenges. In this case, this applicant asked for $31,287, which is over the $15,000, $5,000 to $15,000 we recommend. They didn't do anything wrong per se, but I think their math was really not well done. And so there is a question as to the validity of the grant itself, just because I don't think it shows real numbers. It's hard to believe that those are true numbers. So I believe if you go back to the scoring, I think this grant application scored lowest. Go to the, the priority order. So I think in this case, that influence, which is exactly what you all are supposed to do. Read the grants and decide, is this something that is, and I believe the application actually speaks to the quality of the application materials. So. And knowing that we're probably not going to fund everything, if you want to start there and say, okay, we're going to probably say no on that, that gets you one step closer to a final solution.
DLB Smith, as an inaugural decision, I would personally be happy to throw it out, not as a final statement, but just my opinion that we can take the lowest ranking one and assume that it will not be funded. I think maybe we should start from the top as far as our ranking and look at that program, look at how much it requested, and try and be optimistic and start from the top and assign as much as we feel like is warranted and move down, and then maybe if we run out of money faster than we're expecting, we can go back up and adjust. Obviously that's just a random suggestion, so feel free to push
So start at the top of this list or start at the top of the list?
Of the priority list.
Priority list.
This is Jill Stevie. I am wondering, so with all the different asks that they have, if we are to give them like 50%, 75%, is that enough to do what's needed to be done on most of these? Or is that a question?
No, it's an absolutely fair question. And I think that typically how we've managed that is, generally speaking, they may have to adjust. But for the most part, unless you really cut low.
Sure.
But I also have to say it is idiosyncratic. We have to talk to that agency. We've done this in the past. I mean, it is your decision. So however you decide to allocate funds is up to you all.
Okay.
And we have had a couple of situations, I think more with the TGT grant, because that's specific events, where we gave a certain amount and somebody may have pulled out of the whole thing.
Okay.
So that's possible.
Okay.
So I would, just be mindful of that, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't get too hung up on that necessarily. Sorry, that
Gotcha.
was a real wishy-washy.
No, I just wanted to make sure. It's my first time.
But I think we're also, or maybe I should ask, we're not trying to fund everything. Is that correct? We're just,
DLB Smith, with the amount of money we have, even though it's twice as much as we normally have, which is great, we could not possibly fund all 18 of these requests. So there is going to be, there are some difficult decisions to be made.
And I would dare say, too, that not to compare these as apples and oranges by any means, but TGT is an event budget. It can be adapted. In this case, they have allocated funds according to in-kind, which was a limitation to some degree for some of the, that this is the amount they have, so this is how much they can ask for, because it's a 50-50 match. So I would say that, ideally, to get as close to 100% or hit 100% is better for everybody who's trying to do these projects.
Sure.
Daniel B. Smith, I'll say for my part, whenever looking at this sort of situation, I prefer to give closer to 100% to more agencies rather than trying to give a little bit
To everyone.
to more people.
Sure.
I feel like that generally results in more impactful spending of the dollars. Do we want to immediately force Marlo to close her ears and talk about our highest ranking applicant, which is Free State Festival 2023?
Yeah.
You can do that. Hey, Marlo?
it's a public meeting. I don't know if you can do that.
We're going to ask you to I guess we have to ask you to leave the meeting, to be fair to everybody. So if you leave the meeting, before you go, do I have your phone number? I can text you when you can come back. Just give me, who?
Mary definitely has my phone number.
Oh, I've got her number.
Okay, just, well, go ahead and just, oh no, don't give it to me publicly. The paparazzi be all over you. Give me your, text you as soon as you can come back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sweet. File. Yep.
DLB Smith, I feel like it's relatively useful, and again, I'm just speaking from my personal experience, to look at the list of applicants, and I feel like one approach, which is, I feel like is pretty helpful, is to sort of create tiers as we go, and look at those tiers as being maybe 100% awards, and then maybe 80%, and then maybe 75%, and try and, as a starting point, and then maybe adjust. Some of that will depend on how much people are asking for. But the Free State Festival, looks like they have 14,500 is the total ask.
Let's go to our handy dandy. cents.
And I did have it.
So at 75, you're looking at almost 11,000, or 10,875. 50% is 7,250, and then 25% is 3,625. I know that's tiny. Maybe I'll bump that up just for this one. This one right here.
Daniel B. Smith. So this is one of the applications that stood out for me as just being kind of like absolutely rock solid.
Yeah.
I think the Free State Festival is also just a really important community event. I am personally excited about going to it. I felt like it was just really thorough, and you can tell that they have done this before. I think the amount of 14,500. I do think it's important to keep in mind what our total is, as far as trying to make it make sure that we don't expend it too quickly. But I'm curious if folks feel like, since this is the top of the list and we are just starting out, where folks feel like we should go with this, or if anybody has any comments or questions about their application we submitted.
Yeah, this is Rebecca Schlichting. What is the total amount that we're working with?
70.
70.
70,000? Okay. Just wanted to make sure before. So I'm on the board for this one. I don't know if that's, I shouldn't talk about it.
Oh,
or
you shouldn't,
anything.
yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that, sorry.
I don't pay for anything, and they don't pay me, so I don't know if there's no exchange of money.
Did you calculate according
I
to
did.
that? Okay, so
did.
we
Yeah,
actually,
I didn't answer anything.
I totally forgot. Yeah, but I did. We calculated an average for Marlowe, and I did the same for you.
Yeah.
You notated that on your.
Yeah.
so, because you didn't score it, just to
Right.
make sure everybody understands that, you did not score it. I think in this case, I would, I defer to the board. I think actually, honestly, if it were me, I would recuse myself from further discussion. And sorry, I forgot that happened. I knew Marlo was in there, but, so if you want to, you can just step into that. That's a conference room back there.
Okay,
And you can just hang out in there, and then we'll come and get you after they talk this through.
all right.
Thank you for reminding me about that.
Yeah, so this thing is getting in my way. Okay, so what I did with the calculations was for Free State specifically. So for Marlowe, I calculated an average, which is just the average scores across the board, and I did the same thing for.
And we did the same for your grant.
Yeah.
Because you have to put a number in there.
Yeah.
Jill Stevie, I would, like Daniel, just say that it is such a huge event for our community, and it's very necessary, and the grant was so well written, and I feel like it's highly deserving of this exact purpose. So I would put it in a top tier if that's what we're doing, like a 1, 2, and 3 or something. I would say, yeah, fully fund, because it needs every bit of it.
Danny Smith, yeah, I feel like this is the easy part of the night, where we are just looking at the top ranking ones and fully funding them, and then as we get down further and we start to see where some of the middle of the pack is, and we have to make some decisions, we might reassess
And take a
slight
little bit,
amounts,
yeah.
a little bit, but I think that as a starting point, I think putting in full funding and then coming back to it if necessary is easier than trying to predict what we're going to be fretting about in 30, 40 minutes.
We can always go back.
I mean, is there a way to split up the, like, highly voted in like 3 chunks, like a third, a third, a third, and then,
Are there some natural cutoffs in the,
yeah.
So 18, we're looking at least top 5, 10, 15, and then and then 4.
Minus the last one.
Right.
Okay.
I would actually go ahead and just maybe put a line through the Great Plains, just so we remember.
At the bottom here.
Yeah, you can just go, click on the, just click through it so you select the whole thing. And then go up to the, oh, yours is different.
Is it in the ellipsis there?
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. So the first question, I guess, would be which, would you go 5 or 6? Maybe do a quick calculation and go, so what I would suggest is go ahead and click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then hit sum, hit sum, just click here, hit sum, and then grab these, and just see where you are, hit enter. Okay.
Jamie Smith, that's a pretty, yeah, it's a pretty significant percentage being over 100%. So it's likely that if we are going to, yeah, so we're probably going to have to.
Why does Theodore Lawrence say 25,000?
Yeah.
Oh,
That would be
gosh,
nice, but we
that,
didn't
yes.
ask for that.
No, I think that's just an error on our part.
Agree. I have it here too.
Do you want to open up that actual application?
Here, I've got it here. It should be 15.
Sorry to pop the bubble, Mary.
That'll do it.
Let me double
That
check.
gives us 10 grand.
What?
Yeah,
That gives us
15.
$10,000 more dollars.
That's right.
That helped
We're
a
under
lot.
budget.
yes. And I did.
Glad I
found
could help.
this several times. I appreciate that. And since this is 15, these would be the same across the board here. All right, now we're tracking.
Perfect.
All right, so go back up. Is this the, no, that's the percentage. So there, okay, so that changed that. So now you can just go
Yeah,
step by
let's try
step.
this again.
Once you do, well, theoretically, that's still right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, enter.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I would do, hang on, you goofed here.
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is there.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Mhm.
Okay, and then you can do 6 and just see where that takes you. And then work your way down.
Okay.
Just so they have that in front of them. There you go.
Oh, this is fun.
You stop.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'd have to make adjustments to add more than 5 or 6 or 6 or 7 grants.
B. Smith, yeah, it seems like if we're looking at starting off easy on ourselves, we're really not going to get more than 1 or 2 down the list before we're probably going to have to start making at least some percentile concessions, just because it looks like.
All right, so pause, because I just realized, so we did approve the Free State Festival.
DMB Smith, or we temporarily put that in. But you're wondering if we should invite our Free State Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Is that okay? Okay. So I will, if you can just, I will text Marlo, and if somebody just run and, there you go.
You could make an entrance.
You missed a lot of math.
Okay,
Yeah.
my favorite.
Missed a lot of math.
So the total, for those of you that were out, these totals are of the first 4 in full and 100% funding. Oh, I'll start over for my own. All right, now that you're back, Marlo, I'm explaining some of these numbers here. This is a sum of the first 4 on our priority list, if they were funded in full, all 4 of them, this is the total, and going on down. So this would be the top 5, just to have in perspective, if we wanted to fully fund, you know, this number all the way down would be here.
DW Smith, Mary, earlier you sort of asked if there were some obvious cutoffs with the scoring, and I know that that's definitely been useful in previous application review processes, but really for me it seems like it's a pretty smooth gradient down the list. We have we have a kind of a trio of 270s at the top, and then from there just kind of stair steps all the way down. Which does make it a little bit more difficult to kind of establish some of those tiers we're looking at. I do think since the top 3 we have are 277.16, 277, and 272.25, those definitely seem like strong contenders for the top tier. And I'm curious if we awarded all 3 of those at 100%, I guess what that would put us to. Make you do one last math thing.
Like
Yeah.
45. 44.
So over half.
I'm curious how other people feel, especially our friends on Zoom, about the idea of giving over half of the money we have available to assign to the top 3. Seems a little bit.
I don't know if this is a helpful addition, but this grant is usually at 35, correct? 35,000?
25.
25, okay.
What?
So I was going to say this is around sort of the additional, but it's still not quite at that level, so disregard that.
Thank you. That is good perspective to have. Although I will say, and I'm sure other people will appreciate the sentiment that because the community arts grant process didn't happen during some of our COVID years, we do kind of have something to make up for.
And just so everybody understands, historically, because it's been 25,000, the max is usually 5,000. So because of the circumstances and the fact that you could pull last year's funding to this year, and you all increased the community arts grants by $45,000, you also then raised it from 5,000 to 15,000 max, and so that's being reflected here too. So you're giving larger grants, which makes sense, but that's affecting this as well.
DLB Smith, it's also worth noting, and we kind of touched on this in one of our meetings after we made the decision and made it all official, that having the amount of money we have to disperse doubled and then choosing to triple the maximum amount was a decision that we specifically made at sitting at this table. But in hindsight, it doesn't, I don't really know what.
Well, and
it was based on, I think it was based on another community.
Maybe, and then the anomaly, of course, is always you don't know how many applicants you're going to receive. And so and this is the same in any grant process. You don't, until everybody applies, you don't know how many asks you're going to get. This is a little atypical of all our grants where we've had 3 times the ask. Usually it's 1.5 to 2 times the ask, but in this case you have 3 times the ask, which is fabulous. And I also will say, having read these grants, they're all great proposals. And that's what's so frustrating. It's like I wish we could just give everybody their full funding, but we just can't.
This is Rebecca, and just thinking about time, and I'm looking at the total score and the big differences. So at first I was thinking, well, what if we just do the top 7? But then there's only 4 points from 240 to 236, and then 235 is right behind it. But there is a gap between 235 and 223. So what if we just looked at those top 9?
Or even like the 222 to the 209. Like the top 13, I would wonder about like 75% of the top 13. What would that look like? Just playing with the different maths.
Absolutely. I should have calculated. These are not in priority. These are not in priority order.
Right.
Let me see if I can do a sort really quick.
Well, that'd be helpful.
Oh,
That'd be
yeah, you
really
might need
nice.
to.
Because wouldn't that be just the best?
From column C. If I might make a suggestion. Oh, you can't sort them though.
You'd have to add another column.
You'd have to add the number. The number is what you need to sort by.
Mhm.
So, I could do this quarter. I might just unshare my screen for a hot second while I think the visual will be helpful.
Okay.
Just to see a 75% column. What do you guys think?
DLB Smith, you mean a column next to the requests
The
that?
request, that's the 75% of each
75%.
of these. Because I have the numbers, they're just not in the correct order.
I mean, I think it would be helpful, but I mean, I think that, I mean, for me at least, speaking for myself, looking at the requests, I can ballpark what three-fourths of each of those would be.
Okay.
So I don't know if, I think we need to actually
Yeah.
go through that. I am curious, Rebecca, you pointed out that there's sort of a cutoff after the 230, after the,
235.
so after the 10th. And then Jill, you pointed out that there's also sort of another cutoff, natural cutoff after the 13th. So I am curious, those both seem like starting places we could look at as far as, you know, if we were going to go from 13 and up or 10 and up, what sort of tiers would we want to break down to try and,
And these numbers are actually one off, so this would be top 12, just because we have
Right,
the
yeah.
column.
yes, thank you. DLB Smith, so I'm curious if you all think it would be helpful to start at, you know, those top three, look at those with 100%, and then try and chunk out some sections below those down to the 10 or 13 mark and see if we can get to a point where,
So going to 13, 75% of that till the 222, that's 81,000.
DLB Smith, just 75% across the board for the top 13?
It's 81.
Okay.
It's actually pretty good.
I know. Not bad. I think when Porter had mentioned that it's usually 5,000, that kind of put it into perspective for me. That, like, you know, a lot of these folks are asking for the full 15. Why wouldn't you? But then there's other people that are asking for like $2,000. So it's like, I'm like, well,
Yeah, but you also have to think,
I didn't
the
spay, yeah,
programs are bigger.
right.
And
I
the
get that
costs
too.
are different. So
Right, yeah.
it's like comparing apples and fish.
Right, for sure. And so just to do 75% across the board rather than to say, oh, because your amount's smaller, then we just give you the full thing. But yeah, I think it'd be.
Yeah, and I would say, usually when it's a smaller amount, they really are seeking, that's their maximum need, if that makes sense. So to Mary's point, it's tricky to
Sure.
do apples to oranges on those situations. Because the scale of these projects are so different.
Right, for sure.
So what if in those 12, in those 12, we look at the smallest amounts first and then say, do we want to fund the whole thing? Or do we want to just scale that back and have a conversation of each of those? Or how do you want to do that?
If you just did the top 11.
So the smallest asks would be the Mixmaster 2023, Amplify Lawrence, and these guys at some Sylvester Fest and iHeart Music through this help.
DLB Smith, well, it seems very appealing to look at the top 12, I guess, and say 75%
Sure.
is across the board, gives us, you know, really pretty close to what we're looking to assign. I definitely think that we should look to try and have the upper end be closer to 100 and maybe the bottom end closer to 60. I don't think doing a flat percentage across the top. I mean, to me, it strikes me as a little bit too convenient to possibly be the best way to assign the funding.
I mean, yeah, if you took the top two, because they're almost neck and neck, and did the full, and then kind of went down a little bit from there. Like maybe the 215, like 4 and 5, that was more like 85 or 75 or 90, whatever in that range, and then just keep kind of moving down in kind of the closeness of the numbers.
The top 2 or the top 3?
So the top
Daniel B.
two.
Smith, I just want to make sure, you said 85 for the third and the fourth, you meant 85%
Yeah.
probably, not 85.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, one percentage. So thinking in percentages, just trying to group them in like how they were ranked.
I see Porter doing math.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Beep,
I
boop,
can
boop,
see it
pop.
happening.
15, so that would be
12,750.
12,750.
And then like on the 7 and 8, if those were kind of closer. And do you do like 75 on those? I mean, this is just suggestion. I have no idea, but
Daniel B. Smith, I will say that the difference between 75% and 85% of 2,000 and 5,000, just realistically, is not going to make a huge dent in
right.
the amount that we're so I feel like if there's anywhere where we could, hey, I feel like we could give them 85.
But I would
so it's not
suggest.
gonna-
Yeah.
We're running total down here. So just click there, hit sum, and you can go all the way to here. And then you'll see the landing.
Oh, cool. Can't read that.
I think this one's
No, it was-
85.
85.
which is a big jump down.
So continue to move down to 75 here at the 5. Yeah.
So that drops off a little bit more. It's brutal.
So now we're already over.
Yeah.
So if we put this one at 50, say another cutoff here.
Sure. Ugh.
Daniel B. Smith, I think an interesting question when looking at these, and especially as we're just kind of like, going down the percentage ladder, is at what point do we feel like a percentage is low enough that it's no longer going to be an impactful
Right. Yeah.
percentage?
For sure.
I'm going to ask. So you went from 100 to 85% too. That's a big jump and almost penalizing your top. So I
Right.
just point that out.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that doesn't help, because that means, you know.
Right.
But
It
just
means we
an
have to
awareness.
do the math again.
Huh?
It means we have to do more math.
It would be more math and,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is curious, yeah, if it was, if it was just cleanly 190, 80, 70. And
Start to look crazy. But
That's a good idea.
okay. Oh. It already knows. Continuing down like so.
I was kind of imagining that it would still be in sort of pairs, but I mean, ultimately, we're just taking stabs in the dark right now, and once we have
Right.
once we have it set out, we'll decide if what we've created is worth keeping or destroying.
So at 90%, that goes up to 13.5. Both of those. And then, what is it, 15?
This is up
It would be-
80% of jail.
It'd be 106, 1,600?
1,600.
Nice. And this one is maybe 30%.
4,000?
That's easy.
He's good.
Yes, good.
Boy,
Doesn't mean I like doing it.
All right, do that one.
you guys are good. I'm impressed.
14,
What percentage?
70%.
70%, 14,
Oh, I think I got that wrong, unless it's 1,046,000.
That's a nice number.
It'd be a pleasant surprise. What is it, 14,950 times 70?
Yep.
Oh, 10,465? Is that right?
Seems about right.
Yeah. And so then another 70. Oh, well, we're already over.
Hmm.
What's the camp experience? Which one is that? Number 7? Oh, amplify. Okay, gotcha. Never mind.
DLB Smith, yeah, so we've already exhausted our total going, decreasing at that pace. We can go by 20s, or we can go by 15s, which is kind of what our original scheme was. Yeah, if you just, I guess you can keep it. Well, we started going down by 15 with the first one, with going down by 85. So if we just remove the 75s there and make that 70, that'll continue.
55%.
It's 1,400.
70% of 12?
Is
3.
3,500. Jill's got the calculator.
70%?
Yeah.
3,500.
Yeah.
I see that.
So then we can go down to
That'd be 55%?
55%.
So 14,950?
Mhm.
Uh, 8,222.50
220.
to, and 50 cents. $8,222.50.
Too short.
There you go.
All right, 55% of 15.
Ugh, not gonna make it.
It's gonna go over.
Yep.
$82.50. 8,200. Yeah, there you go. Dang it.
And that's only the top, for top 8.
Dang it.
I like the right one better. I know there's 2,265 that it's going over, but maybe we can pull that from somewhere else in here.
Debbie Smith, would you be interested in seeing a more, a longer degradation where we're going down? Because currently, we went down by 15% over here every 2, and here we went down 10. We could try going down by 20% each and see how far that gets us.
How many are we trying to fund? I mean,
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think that's what you have to decide before you,
At this point, we could compare it, looking at these totals and the percentages, we could look over at which programs are being funded and maybe discuss the merits, because eventually there will be a cutoff. So do we feel like we want to, does anybody want to fight for any of the projects which are listed below that cutoff at this point? I realize that
It's
is
so
not
hard.
a fun prospect.
I mean, I really want to see the Juneteenth celebration funded. That's a must-have.
DNB Smith, I agree that it is a must-have, and I think with both of these, we have a significant amount of the funding.
Yeah. So I think it's safe, but, but I would want to refer back to the list too. And these are listed differently than in our.
Actually, they're the same. So
DNB Smith, you mean the names of them?
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thank you. That helps. Thank you.
DNB Smith, I instinctively asked if my brain, seeing Theodore Lawrence, immediately thought about you having to recuse yourself, but I guess you've officially retired at this point.
as of Friday, I will be retired.
Oh, okay.
So I'd be happy to leave at any
No.
time.
I've been monitoring, but you guys haven't talked directly about Theodore Lawrence.
This is true.
And she has been very mindful not to comment,
Yeah.
so I think that under the circumstances, if you wanted to deliberate, but because they scored high enough.
DNB Smith, I am in favor of not forcing Mary to leave the room at any point.
Yeah. Well, if anybody's uncomfortable at any time, I'm happy to go into the little room.
I'm concerned. Can we just double check? Because I just saw something that might be, let's just run through real quick. And sorry, I'm not trying to challenge anything. Just trying to think the best way to do this. Sorry, bear with me a second. Okay, so according to my notes, okay, so we know that, can everybody, I mean, if anybody has notes, so Free Stuff State Festival is asking 14.5. Can we confirm that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Community Arts Partners is asking 14.7.
Yes.
Crowns at Theater Lawrence is 15.
Yes.
Claiming Spaces, We Are the Keeper, 15.
Yes.
Mixed Master, 2,000. I believe that's right.
Yes.
Amplify Lawrence,
5,000.
5K. Lawrence Juneteenth is 14,950. MAPAA Youth Outreach Initiative is 1,500.
15,000.
15,000, sorry. Now Buskers at Boys and Girls, what's that number?
Buskers, that one is 7,500.
75? Okay, sorry, I saw something that threw me off. Okay, good. I just wanted to double check.
Do we want
Make sure
to?
the math is
Do
right.
we want to pop over to the application tab just to absolutely double check, or is that information? That we
The, never mind, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, total ask, that's what my error was, so that's right. No, I think these are right. Sorry, I just wanted to double check.
Yep.
I would be okay with cutting it off after, with Juneteenth being the last one. This is Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
I think the quality of application writing kind of went down after that in many cases. Not all of them, but in many of the cases.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel B. Smith, I mean, I certainly have, there's certainly applications on here below that cutoff that I am very, I personally ranked quite highly, but
Yeah.
I do think that keeping in mind the amount we have, there does have to be a cutoff somewhere, and the totality of the commissioners' scores is ultimately what we need to move forward with, especially considering we have a couple folks who aren't here, so their voice is entirely reflected in these numbers. I am curious, because simply, you know, for the sake of my own conscience, because we decided to make the maximum 15 and not 10, which would have been double a normal amount. I do wonder if we feel like maybe we've created a little bit of a princes and paupers type situation where we have more money than we've ever had, and it's we're prioritizing fully funding versus trying to make sure that folks who have been struggling over the pandemic are given kind of a shot in the arm to execute on some programs. I'm not opposed to this, but I am curious. I think it is our responsibility to agonize at least
For sure.
a little bit more about it.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a recommendation? Sorry. I guess
Yeah.
I wasn't understanding what you were.
I don't have a specific recommendation. I
Okay.
just know that in an average year, since $5,000 is ordinarily the maximum, we do have a situation where with twice the amount of money, the result is that we're giving a number of folks 3 times what the normal maximum would be, and just
For what
that in
it's
mind.
worth, when it was 25,000, the max was typically 4 or 5 grants. So,
Oh,
Well, that's
So-
good to know too.
Yeah.
That is good perspective. So this would be twice as
you had
twice as much money, twice as many grantees.
sure.
Um,
So if you have 18, you cut it off at half-ish. I mean, so you have 18, right? Well, 17?
18.
17, because the top bar or whatever.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yep.
So you have 18 applicants, so, I mean, that's 9. So that's what at the Youth Outreach Initiative? So what do those top half add up to be?
That was where we were before.
Oh, 76. But if you took that one off, then you'd have a little bit left over. $67. So, what if you brought that last one up to 70? What was that one? 14,900.
This last one,
Uh-huh.
Juneteenth?
Yeah, so that'd be $10,465, I believe. No, yeah, 10,465. What would that be? 70,000. That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
And then you just cut maybe Juneteenth down to
Take the
10,400.
65 off.
So 10,400. And that would give you your 70,000 even.
Daniel B. Smith, I'm curious if Marciana or Marlo have any input. I hope you're driving safely, Marlo. But if either of you want to chime in,
I feel comfortable with the decisions. You know, I feel a little uncomfortable debating too much about the top levels and how to differentiate, but I do feel like sending half of them makes sense to me, like in historical context of what we've done before.
Marciana, we didn't catch the end. It's hard to.
That's Marlo.
Oh, Marlo, can you get closer to your mic? It's a little hard to hear.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me a little better now?
A little better.
Okay. I was just saying that I feel comfortable funding half of the applicants, and I think that makes sense historically. It's what we've done before. I don't feel comfortable so much debating, you know, the percentages of how that breaks down due to conflict of interest, but I feel like this accurately represents, you know, some context of the previous amounts of funding and how it breaks down.
And this is Marciana, and I feel strongly about keeping Juneteenth in there as high funding as possible. So I think that makes a really good natural cutoff, and I agree with that.
Daniel B. Smith, thank you, Marciana. Thank you, Marlo. We are at a point now where folks are welcome to bring up any other questions or concerns. If not, we could potentially move forward. And Porter and Abby, I'm curious if you want to say a word about what the next steps would be before we do take it to a vote.
Yeah, one, this is great. I know it's hard and I know it's painful. And again, I want to reiterate, I really enjoyed reading the grants. There's several in here that I'm really sad that we can't fund them because everybody did a really good job. So I want to encourage everybody, don't stop. I think that's really important. And this is a great move in the right direction as far as arts and culture goes in Lawrence. So hopefully everybody can hear that. So whatever you select, if this was your final selection, basically that's the recommendation we'll take back. We do have to go back and double check some things because we have to remember, you know, as a government agency, we have to make sure that all the numbers check out and that kind of thing. I've done an initial review of all that, but now I delve deeper and just go back and make sure that we have everything we need for all these to work out an agreement with our legal department. So we would do that. It's possible we could find an error or something that, you know, severe enough that we'd want to bring it back to you guys, but hopefully we'll work through that process. And I think with these folks, we should be able to do that.
Daniel B. Smith, at this time, considering the recommendation it looks like we might be moving forward with, do you think it's important for us to make any sort of accommodations for staff to, I know in the past with grant review processes, we've sort of had a contingency that if one of these programs drops off, instead of reconvening and going through this entire process again, or even just coming back to it, that we might have a natural progression where simply the next person on the list would move up.
You could certainly advise us that way. And that way, if somebody were to drop out or something, we know, just go down the list.
I'm curious how everyone else feels about that, considering that it seems like we do kind of feel like we hit a natural breaking point in the list, whether just moving somebody up to fill a spot would fit with sort of what our thought process has been.
This is Rebecca Schlichting. I would defer to the committee who initially worked with these grants.
Okay, we can check in with there's 4 of you, 3 minus Marlo, and in case of something along those lines. So we can do that. I think we can, yeah, we can, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I just want to put out clearly, not just to you, Rebecca, but to everybody, we have to abide by very specific laws and things related to the agreement. So if we bump into a serious snag, we'd come back and discuss it with you all.
Daniel B. Smith, so it sounds like what we're looking to potentially move forward with is making approving this recommendation with the contingency that if somebody, one of these, the folks who are selecting at their percentage were to not end up moving forward, that it would then go back to the Community Arts Grants Subcommittee, and then they would advise the city on potentially moving up somebody, and then that information would probably be relayed back to the full board at a Cultural Arts Commission meeting.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I will, as always, be looking for someone to make a motion to approve, but I do also want to, while this is fresh in our minds, I do want to point out the rubric and the process we just went through. The subcommittee reviewed the applications for the eligibility, and then everybody filled out the rubrics, and then we brought to this special meeting to go through, and this is all a process that we could revise going forward. And so if there's anything about the rubric, how things are done, I would encourage you to make note of it and pass that on to myself or Abby or Porter, and we, in the future, we can try and improve the process so that it'll be better. So just while it's fresh in your mind. But other than that, seems like most of the discussion has petered out, and I am happy to entertain a motion.
Before we leave the discussion, I would just suggest that we had special circumstances this time with changes in staff and all the rest, but I would hope that the next time going around, that the grants could be reviewed in a more timely manner and maybe feedback given to some of the grants that might have some questions attached to them, so that there would be an opportunity to make sure that everyone is in compliance before we reach this stage. And I think sometimes it might be more appropriate for staff to accomplish that than the committee.
Do you Smith, you mean the subcommittee for eligibility? Mm-hmm. I agree that there's definitely room for staff to take on reviewing for the eligibility status. I also...
So that the eligibility was determined before it went to the the committee, or the subcommittee.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel B. Smith, I appreciate those comments, and I have a feeling that we won't have too many years as interesting as this one. I mean, obviously the last few years have been pretty interesting, but as far as staff transitions and you know, some of those pivots.
But just as a standard to pursue, I would suggest that we look at some procedures.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dina.
Hi, Dina.
Sorry, I'm a little later than I thought I'd be. Our reception went a little long tonight.
You are welcome.
Sorry about that.
Yes.
Dina, you've managed to join us literally moments before we're potentially going to approve the recommendations that we've deliberated over. I believe that you can see the spreadsheet on the screen. What we've kind of come to is that we have 8 of the 18, the top 8 as per thank you, of the 18 that were scored by the commissioners, and that we did a breakdown starting at 100% and going down to 70% as the lowest percentage of the award.
Okay.
And that's so I would, because you've taken the time to join us, I'd give you a moment to look over those and let us know if you have some last minute input.
Well, I assume you did get my spreadsheet that I sent in on Sunday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I might just take a quick peek here, but I don't, I think that's fine. I might just, would it be okay if I took a screenshot of this? Just to look at over later, just to see how it all turned out. Is that okay?
Sure.
Tammy Smith, yes, you may.
Okay, thanks.
And of course, you have the video, and as we articulated at the start of the meeting, we had a great response, great applications, and unfortunately, just not enough money. We had 3 times the ask for the amount that we had, so this was not easy, to figure out the natural sort of breaking points and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I thought there were a lot of good ones in the whole package. So sorry I couldn't be there to deliberate a little bit more in detail with you guys.
Thank you for joining us, even a little bit late. So yeah, feel free to take a screenshot, take a look over those. If you don't have any input, we'd kind of reached the end of our deliberation discussion.
That's fine.
So I'm at a point where I'm essentially just looking for potential motion to approve this recommendation, with the contingency that if anything that is any of these projects that we're approving fall off, that it'll go back to the subcommittee, who will then make a recommendation to staff to potentially move somebody up from the next ranked candidate on the list, and then bring the information back to the full body.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Jill. Can I get a second on that motion?
This is Rebecca Schlichting. I'll second.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. I will now do a roll call vote, starting with Marlo.
I heard approved.
Yes, thank you. And then Mary?
Approved.
And then Dina?
Approved.
And then Marciana?
Approved.
And then Rebecca?
Approve.
And then Jill?
Approve.
And I shall also approve, meaning that it shall pass unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, staff. Thank you all the applicants. Multiple people have said that we had just an abundance of excellent applications. It is a heartbreaking process. Thank you all for going through it with me. We have nothing else on our agenda. This was a special meeting. Our next actual meeting will be April 12th. I want to say off the top of my head, 7:30 here in this room.
Friendly reminder went out this morning.
If you have any questions, or if you can't make that meeting, feel free to shoot me or Abby or even Porter an email. Otherwise, we can move to adjourn.
I would like to echo what you just said and just thank everyone here in the room and then at home. But all the applications were, I mean, of course, we want to give to everyone. And it's a really hard decision to make, but we are so thankful that we could give away more this year than ever before. So we'll just.
What are the odds of that ever happening again?
Pandemic?
No.
Hope not.
No, increased funding.
Oh, well, we are asking. You all numbers, so we're putting this number in. So, and
Sounds
I've
good.
made the argument that we have consistently had far more ask than ability to award. So, and we have not raised this since 2015. So I think hopefully that works.
Yeah, and what incredible creative projects and just amazing what people are trying to do out there. So it's awesome.
Yes.
Do we need to do roll call for adjournment?
I don't think you do unless somebody screams out, "Do not adjourn the meeting." I think you're good.
All right, it was nice seeing you all and hearing your voices.
Thanks, everybody.
See you April
Bye.
12th.
Bye-bye.
That's all.